I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's talk right now about pubs and the plight of pubs, which we were told was going to be tackled by Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, at the last budget. And not only did she not make their lives better, she made them worse.
Close your eyes and imagine the most British sound in the world. Is it the chime of Big Ben? The roar of a Wembley crowd? No, it is the sound of a landlord pulling a fresh pint of bitter at 11 a.m. on a Saturday. But if Rachel Reeves gets her way, that sound might soon be replaced by the eerie silence of a for sale sign creaking in the wind. We are witnessing a full-blown Barmageddon. Furious pub landlords across the United Kingdom are not just grumbling over their spreadsheets, they are threatening to go on strike, pushing back opening times, and even calling last orders for 5 minutes of noisy protest to show this government that they will not be taxed into extinction. It is a rebellion of the beer pumps, a mutiny of the snugs, and it has reportedly left our Chancellor in a state of absolute emotional collapse. When you have managed to make the most stoic group of people in Britain, the nation's publicans, threaten industrial action, you know you have fumbled the bag on a historic scale. Quick favour, if you are loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't yet. It is free, takes a second, and means the world to us at the British Report. Thanks if you did. Now back to the show. Let us look at the sheer scale of the wreckage. Rachel Reeves walked into number 11 promising a new golden era for hospitality, but what she delivered was more like a lead weight tied to the industry's ankles. The primary culprit is a double whammy of business rate hikes and the expiration of the COVID-era relief that was the only thing keeping many locals afloat. We are talking about the average pub's tax bill jumping by thousands of pounds almost overnight. Landlord Andy Lennox, the man who famously called for Labour MPs to be barred from pubs until they learn how to use a calculator, is now calling for a day of industrial action. He is framing it as a rallying call for a sector that has been treated like a bottomless piggy bank by left-wing ministers who wouldn't know a honest day's work if it bit them on the nose. The strategy is simple but devastating. Pubs are considering pushing back their opening times from the traditional 11 a.m. It is a symbolic clear-off to a government that expects these businesses to keep the lights on while simultaneously draining their bank accounts. And as if the business rates weren't enough, they are also being hammered by a 6.7% rise in the national living wage and a massive hike in national insurance contributions for employers. It is like asking a marathon runner to break a world record while you are busy stealing their trainers and filling their lungs with smog. It is unsustainable, it is unfair, and according to the latest reports, the backlash has been so severe that the Chancellor is feeling the heat in a very personal way. But the tax raid is only half the story. There is a new shadow looming over the beer garden, and it comes in the form of a nanny state crackdown on our social lives.
Yeah, there's a number of things going. I mean, let's face it, pubs were anyway in crisis. I mean, you go back to the early 2000s, there were over 60,000 pubs in the UK, down to under 39,000. And last year, roughly, one pub was closing permanently every day. So the sector was in crisis anyway, and that's been a long-run trend, people drinking less and so on. But government policy really hasn't helped. Business rates for pubs are a nightmare, and partly because they're made up in a completely nonsensical way based on what a reasonable publican would turn over. They make it up, literally. So there's no incentive for publicans to actually go out and really boost their business because they're just going to get taxed more. So that's nonsensical for a start. We're also seeing a business rate review in April, and the scale of that in terms of the impact on the sector is enormous. So you've got these various things going on, some sort of rate relief being phased out. The government has also changed what's called the multiplier, but the rate review is phenomenal. I was looking at the case of a pub recently, and the business rates are likely to go from about 50,000 a year to over 200,000 a year.
Wow.
We are essentially overtaxing pubs. The government have seen this as an easy source of revenue. They see drink as something that is socially bad. They ignore the social value of pubs. We love going to pubs. It is one of the few third spaces between work and home where we can go and socialise. And for many places, particularly the countryside, but also some urban estates, it's the only place left. So we've got to start putting value on it, recognising that, and stop really screwing the pubs.
Just as the industry was reeling from the budget, the government decided to float the idea of tightening drink driving laws. Now, on the surface, everyone wants safer roads, but when you look at the proposal to drop the limit to a level where a single small glass of cider could see a rural farmer lose his licence, you see the real agenda. Nigel Farage, never one to miss a moment of common sense clarity, has warned that this is the death knell for country pubs. In rural Britain, the pub is the post office, the community centre, and the only place to see a friendly face for miles. If you make it legally impossible for someone to have one pint and drive home on a quiet country lane, you aren't just saving lives, you are killing communities. This isn't just a minor adjustment, it is a cultural assault. The sector is now begging Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves to accept the inevitable and announce a U-turn. Lawson Mount Stevens, the boss of Star Pubs, has been incredibly vocal, stating that the strength of feeling on this issue is unlike anything he has seen in decades. Publicans want a fairer, more proportionate settlement, and they want it yesterday. They are calling for an emergency reduction in VAT to 13%, a move that would actually give these businesses the oxygen they need to survive. But instead of listening, the Treasury seems to be doubling down, treating the hospitality industry with the same disdain they showed the farmers just a few months ago. Speaking of farmers, the pub landlords are clearly taking a leaf out of the tractor protest playbook, and it is sending shockwaves through Whitehall. Remember the family farm tax protest? The image of thousands of tractors clogging up the streets around Parliament was the first real crack in the Starmer administration's armour. It led to a partial climb down and proved that if you make enough noise, the grown-ups in the room will eventually stop ignoring you. The pub industry is now looking at that blueprint. More than 1,000 pubs have already officially barred Labour MPs. Imagine being the local member of Parliament and being told you can't even get a packet of dry roasted peanuts in your own constituency because your boss in London decided to tax the landlord out of house and home.
Well, a series of issues have hit them, and this is where I show the lack of not just imagination, understanding of the Treasury and of her, because actually joining the dots together to see the impact of it. Yeah. So, first of all, obviously we had the impact of what happened with COVID and everything relating to that. That's a much longer tail, but really what she hit them first of all with was, of course, the tax on jobs, the national insurance extra payments, and a secondary issue when we had the next budget, blow me, is another version of that going in, and she was told beforehand and afterwards, and seemed to be completely blind to the impact that would have. And we could see the impact because unemployment's going up.
Yeah. And the minimum wage massively hits.
The minimum wage always really annoys me when the government says, we've improved the minimum wage. You don't pay it. No, companies pay it. The fact you've actually put a tax on companies by saying you've got to now pay more, the lowest, the poorest people in your company more, well, that's fine. It makes it sound look like sort of Marley and Scrooge. And of course, companies aren't like that. Yeah.
The pressure is even coming from inside the House. Rachel Muskell, the Labour MP for York Central, actually stood up during Prime Minister's questions and urged Keir Starmer to review the business rate proposals. When your own backbenchers are warning that you're about to cause a crisis on the high street, you know you have lost the dressing room. York's High Street is world famous, but it won't be much of an attraction if every second window is boarded up, because the Chancellor decided that online giants like Amazon should pay less in tax than the local boozer. It is a policy of madness, and the publicans are ready to go to war to stop it. So where does this leave the Iron Chancellor? Well, the nickname is starting to look a bit rusty as the tears begin to flow and the U-turns start to look inevitable. The reality is that Rachel Reeves has a choice. She can be the Chancellor who saved the British pub, or the one who presided over its funeral. The current trajectory points toward a wave of insolvencies that will make the 2008 crash look like a minor accounting error. If the industrial action goes ahead at the end of the month, we could see a coordinated blackout of the British hospitality sector that would be a PR disaster of epic proportions for a government that claims to be for the working people. You cannot be for the working person while you are busy making their local pint unaffordable and their local employer bankrupt. The British report will be staying on top of this story as the strike dates approach. We are looking at a national standoff between the metropolitan elite in Downing Street and the heart and soul of the British community. One side has spreadsheets and ideology. The other has the support of millions of punters and a very loud last orders bell. My money is on the landlords. They have survived world wars, recessions and global pandemics. They certainly aren't going to let a former Bank of England economist snatch the taps without a fight. Thank you for watching.